The helicopter blades slowed to silence as Marcus Holloway stepped onto the rooftop landing pad of his Manhattan penthouse. At 42 years old, he had built a $12 billion empire. Forbes called him a visionary. His late wife had called him distant. Sarah had been gone for 3 years. Cancer took her. Now that same disease was claiming their only son. 8-year-old Joshua sat in his bedroom, oxygen tube beneath his nose, skin holding a grayish pallor that no expensive treatment could reverse. Aggressive neuroblastoma. The doctors gave him 3 months, maybe less. "Hey, champ," Marcus said, entering the room after cancelling 3 meetings. Joshua looked up with tired eyes. "Dad, you're home early." "Wanted to see you." Marcus sat carefully on the bed. "How are you feeling?" "Tired. Always tired." Marcus felt the familiar knife twist in his chest. He'd spent millions on specialists, flown to Switzerland, Germany, Singapore. Nothing worked. The cancer kept spreading, stealing his son piece by piece. "Dr. Morrison wants to try one more protocol," Marcus said quietly. Joshua's eyes filled with resignation. At 8 years old, his son had learned to stop hoping. "Will it hurt?" "Probably." "Then I don't want to do it." Joshua turned toward the window. "Mom wouldn't want me to hurt anymore." Marcus's throat tightened. Even dying, Sarah had been present, holding Joshua through treatments, singing during the worst moments. Marcus had been there physically but emotionally absent, hiding behind work because watching his wife die was too painful. Now history was repeating. Joshua was slipping away, and Marcus stood powerless with all his billions. "Your mom loved you more than anything," Marcus whispered. "She would want you to stay home more," Joshua said quietly. "But you always leave." The words hit hard. "I'm here now," Marcus said weakly. "But for how long?" Joshua's voice held sad acceptance. "You always leave." Marcus had no answer. His phone buzzed constantly. A board meeting in 2 hours. A London merger tomorrow. The world didn't stop because his son was dying. As Marcus stood to leave, he paused at the doorway and looked back at his son. Joshua had already turned away, staring at the wall with empty eyes. Not living, just waiting to die. Marcus walked to his study and sat in the darkness, asking himself the same question he'd been asking for 3 years. How do you save someone when all the money in the world isn't enough? CTA has shown. If you're enjoying this story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. The security room looked like a government facility. 18 monitors displayed feeds from cameras throughout the 12,000-square-foot residence. Marcus sat there every night at 11 p.m., his ritual for 3 years. The surveillance hadn't always been this extreme. But 11 caregivers in 3 years had changed. Him, Nanny number 1, sold intimate details to tabloids for $30,000. Number 2 stole Sarah's jewelry, including her wedding ring. Number 3 photographed medical documents for pharmaceutical competitors. Numbers 4 through 6 came from an agency. One oversedated Joshua to make her job easier. Another was verbally abusive when she thought no one was listening. The third copied sensitive business files. Number 7 planned a tell-all book with secretly taken photos. Numbers 8 through 11 lasted weeks combined. One lied about credentials, another tried smuggling valuable art. The third ran an influencer scheme posting about billionaire life. 11 betrayals. 11 people who'd violated his trust, exploited his grief, endangered his son. Each betrayal carved away his ability to believe in human goodness. Now Marcus trusted no one. The cameras ran 24 hours, footage archived on encrypted servers. He reviewed everything nightly, looking for signs of deception. His fiancée Victoria entered the security room. "Still watching? You need sleep." "Just finishing." Victoria had been in his life 14 months. They'd met at a conference in Dubai. She ran a successful PR firm, didn't need his money. The engagement was practical. Joshua needed stability. Marcus needed someone who understood his world. It wasn't love like Sarah, but love had died 3 years ago. This was manageable. "You have Maria now," Victoria said. "She's been here 2 weeks, no issues. Maybe she's trustworthy." Marcus said nothing. 2 weeks meant nothing. Rebecca lasted 18 months before showing her true colors. He would watch, he would wait, he would catch Maria doing whatever she was really here to do, because everyone had a price. Everyone would eventually betray him. The only question was when. 2 weeks earlier, Maria Santos had stood in Marcus's office for her interview. At 28, she'd been working multiple jobs for 6 years, cleaning houses mornings, nursing classes nights, sending money to her mother in the Philippines monthly. Marcus sat across from her, expression unreadable. Between them lay her complete background check: every job, address, credit history, criminal record, social media presence. "Miss Santos, let me be clear about this position," Marcus began coldly. "This is not a family position. You're an employee providing a service, nothing more." Maria nodded quietly. "You will not bond with my son beyond professional necessity. You will not become emotionally attached. When his condition reaches its conclusion, you will leave without drama." "I understand, sir." "You will follow medical protocols exactly. No deviation, no personal opinions, no folk remedies, science only." "Of course." Marcus slid a document across. "Non-disclosure agreement. You will not speak to anyone about this household. Penalty for violation is $2 million and criminal prosecution." Maria signed without hesitation. "Pay is $25 per hour. Medical benefits. Room and board provided. Sunday afternoons off. No visitors in the residence. Personal calls outside the penthouse only." It was more money than Maria had ever made. It was also the coldest job offer she'd received. "The previous 11 caregivers betrayed my trust in various ways: theft, exploitation, selling stories, espionage. I tell you this so you understand. I will be watching, every moment. If you deviate from protocol, I will know." Maria met his eyes calmly. "Sir, I'm sorry that happened, but I'm not those people. I'm here to help a suffering child. That's all." Something flickered across Marcus's face, wanting to believe her, but it disappeared quickly. "We'll see," he said simply. That first night, Maria entered Joshua's room, her heart already aching. The boy was so small in that enormous bed, surrounded by beeping equipment. His eyes opened when she approached. "Are you nanny number 12? The question broke her heart. This child had learned to count his caregivers like prisoners counting days. "I'm Maria," she said gently, sitting in the chair beside his bed. "And I'm here to help you feel as comfortable as possible." The others said that too. Joshua studied her with eyes too old for his face. Then they left. "I'm not planning on leaving. Everyone leaves eventually." He said it as fact, not complaint. Mom left. The nannies left. Dad's here, but he's not really here. Everyone leaves. Maria felt tears threaten but kept them back. "Well, Joshua, I promise you something. While I'm here, I will actually be here. Present, paying attention, caring about you." "Why?" The question held genuine confusion. "Dad pays you to follow protocols." "Not to care. Your dad pays me to do a job. But caring, that's free. That's just who I am." Joshua looked skeptical but too tired to argue. That night, after Joshua fell asleep, Maria unpacked her few belongings in the small staff room. She noticed the camera in the corner, not hidden, deliberately visible. A reminder that she was being watched, judged, waited on to fail. She knelt beside her bed and said a quiet prayer, the same one she'd prayed every night since her father died 5 years ago. "God, help me be the hands and feet of your love today. Let me serve with compassion. Let me see people the way you see them." Upstairs in the security room, Marcus watched her fold clothes, watched her kneel beside her bed, watched her lips move in silent prayer. He made a note in his surveillance log. Subject appears religious. Monitor for proselytizing or inappropriate faith discussions with Joshua. Maria had no idea her very first night was already being documented, analyzed, suspected. But she would have prayed the same prayer anyway. Because in Manila, her younger brother Miguel had died at age 7 from leukemia. Their family couldn't afford the treatment that might have saved him. She had promised herself then, if she ever had the chance to care for a sick child, she would pour everything she had into making that child feel loved, safe, and valued in whatever time remained. Joshua didn't know it yet, but Maria wasn't going to leave. Not until God himself took that child home. The first time Maria broke protocol, it was over something small. But in Marcus Holloway's carefully controlled world, there was no such thing as an insignificant deviation. It happened on day 4. She had just finished administering Joshua's afternoon medications, 12 different pills crushed and mixed into applesauce, the exact process outlined in Dr. Morrison's 50-page care manual. The protocol said, after medication administration, ensure patient rests quietly for 30 minutes. Monitor vitals. Do not engage in stimulating activities. Maria watched Joshua lie back against his pillows, staring at the ceiling with empty eyes. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows, but the boy didn't even look toward it. He simply existed, waiting for the next medical intervention. She thought about Miguel, how in his final weeks he had stopped smiling, stopped playing, stopped being a child. Maria made a decision. She pulled out her phone and soft guitar music began playing a gentle worship song from her grandmother's church. Nothing loud, just simple, peaceful melody. Then she started humming along. Joshua's eyes shifted toward her. "What are you doing?" "Humming," Maria said simply. "Does it bother you?" He considered this. "No, it's just different. Different bad or different good?" "Different, okay, I guess." He paused. "What song is it?" "An old song about being held when you're scared, about not being alone." "I'm alone all the time." Maria's heart cracked. She moved closer to his bed, still humming softly. "You're not alone right now. Dad's in a meeting. Victoria's at her office. The nurses come and go, but they don't really see me. They see a sick kid with an expiration date." "I see you, Joshua," Maria said quietly. "I see a brave boy who's been through more pain than most adults could handle. I see someone worth knowing." Joshua's eyes filled with tears. He immediately tried to blink away. "The others didn't talk to me like this." "Like what?" "Like I'm a person. Like I matter." Maria sat on the edge of his bed, another protocol violation, and took his small hand in hers. "You matter more than you could possibly understand." Upstairs in his office, Marcus had the security feed open on his tablet during a conference call with Tokyo investors. He saw Maria pull out her phone, saw her start playing music, saw her sit on Joshua's bed. His jaw tightened. He made a note. Day 4. Protocol violations begin. Subject playing unauthorized music, making inappropriate physical contact. Monitor closely. But he didn't stop her. Not yet. He would watch. He would document. He would wait for the real betrayal to reveal itself. Over the next 10 days, Maria's protocol violations multiplied. Day 6. She brought a small potted plant into Joshua's room. "Something alive to take care of," she explained. "Something that needs you." The care manual said, "Keep environment sterile. No plants, no pets, no outside contaminants." Maria watered the small succulent every morning with Joshua, teaching him to check the soil, to notice when it needed care. For the first time in months, Joshua had something to nurture instead of being the one always needing care. Marcus watched on camera, documenting the violation. Day 8. Maria started reading to Joshua, not from the approved educational materials, but from an old paperback adventure novel about pirates and treasure and boys who went on grand adventures. The protocol said, "Limit stimulation, educational content only, no fantasy or unrealistic scenarios." But Joshua's eyes lit up during the stories. He asked questions. He made predictions. For 30 minutes each evening, he forgot he was dying. Marcus watched, adding another note. Day 10. The biggest violation yet. Maria had finished Joshua's evening medications. His breathing had been labored all day, the oxygen machine working overtime. He looked frightened in a way he usually tried to hide. "Maria?" he whispered as she reached the door. "Yes, sweetheart. Can you pray, like you do before bed? Out loud this time?" Maria's breath caught. This was explicitly forbidden territory. Marcus had made it crystal clear. No religious discussion, no spiritual content, no prayer. She looked at the camera in the corner. She knew Marcus was likely watching. Then she looked at Joshua's scared face. She came back to his bedside and knelt down. "Dear God," she said softly, "thank you for Joshua. Thank you for his brave heart and his beautiful spirit. Please help him feel your presence tonight. Help him know he's not alone. Give him peace and rest. Wrap your arms around him. In Jesus' name, Amen." Joshua's breathing slowed, his face relaxed. "Thank you. That helped." Maria kissed his forehead, another violation, and left quietly. In the security room, Marcus stared at the screen. Religious content, physical affection, emotional manipulation, everything he'd explicitly forbidden. He should fire her, right now, immediately. But Joshua hadn't looked that peaceful in months. Marcus closed the surveillance window and tried to ignore the uncomfortable feeling that maybe protocol wasn't everything. 3 weeks into Maria's employment, something unprecedented began happening. Joshua started improving. Week 3, day 2. Joshua ate breakfast without being reminded. He asked for seconds of the oatmeal Maria made, not the hospital-prescribed bland version, but with cinnamon and honey. Week 3, day 5. Joshua asked to sit by the window. With Maria's help, he moved from bed to the wheelchair, then to the cushioned chair facing the city. He sat there for an hour, just watching the world. Week 4, day 3. Dr. Morrison visited for Joshua's weekly examination, looking puzzled. She spent an hour running tests, checking results twice. Finally, she emerged and found Marcus in his office. "Mr. Holloway, I need to discuss Joshua's latest results." Marcus looked up, fear immediately tightening his throat. "What's wrong?" "That's just it. Nothing's wrong. His white blood cell count is improving. The tumor markers in his blood are down not significantly, but measurably. His appetite has increased, sleep patterns are better, overall energy levels have risen 23% in 3 weeks. Marcus stared at the numbers. "What changed?" "That's what I'm asking you. Have you altered his medication regimen?" "No. Everything's exactly as you prescribed." Dr. Morrison tapped her pen against the reports. "Then something else has changed. Environmental factors, emotional state, these affect healing, especially in children. Something in Joshua's daily life is different." Marcus thought about Maria, the music, the prayers, the physical affection, the adventure stories, the plant Joshua watered every morning, all the protocol violations that should have gotten her fired. "The new caregiver is more engaged," he said slowly. Dr. Morrison nodded. "There's increasing evidence that emotional well-being directly impacts physical healing. Children who feel loved and safe often respond better to treatment. Whatever's happening in this household, keep doing it. Joshua's improvement is modest but real. For a child we thought had 3 months left, even modest improvement is miraculous." After she left, Marcus sat alone, staring at the security monitor showing Maria and Joshua playing a card game. The boy was laughing, actually laughing. He pulled up his surveillance logs, weeks of documented violations, everything he'd forbidden, everything that was somehow saving his son's life. Marcus closed the files. Maybe she was doing everything right, but the doubt remained, because 11 people before her had seemed right too. At first, it was Victoria who planted the seed that would destroy everything. Week 5, Saturday evening. Marcus was reviewing security footage when Victoria entered with wine. "Still watching?" She kissed his cheek. "You're obsessed. Just being thorough." Victoria sat on the arm of his chair, looking at the monitors. "You know, I've been thinking about Maria." Marcus tensed. "What about her?" "She's wonderful with Joshua, really wonderful. But..." Victoria paused delicately. "Have you noticed how attached he's getting?" "He likes her. That's good." "Is it?" Victoria's voice held concern. "Marcus, what happens when things reach their natural conclusion? Joshua's going to be devastated that she's not his real mother. It might make his final days harder." Marcus felt the words sink in like poison. "And there's something else." Victoria continued softly. "I saw her in your study yesterday. She said she was looking for printer paper. But Marcus, why would she need printer paper? The blight protocols don't require any printing. Maybe she was making notes, or maybe she was looking through your files, like the others did." Victoria's hand rested gently on his shoulder. "I'm not saying she's definitely doing something wrong. I'm just saying, be careful. You've been burned 11 times, and this one is getting closer to Joshua than any of the others. If she's playing a long game, she's playing it very well." Marcus said nothing, but the doubt Victoria planted began to grow. Over the next week, he watched Maria more carefully, looking for signs of deception, looking for the moment she would reveal her true intentions. And then he saw something on the cameras that made his blood run cold. CTA #2. If you're hooked on this story, subscribe and turn on notifications. Your support means everything. It was week 6, Tuesday night, 11 p.m. Marcus was doing his nightly surveillance review when he opened the feed from the hallway outside Joshua's room. The timestamp showed 2:47 a.m. from the previous night. The camera captured Maria emerging from Joshua's room, not unusual. She often checked on him during the night, but this time she was carrying something. A small bag. Marcus's heart began to pound. He watched as Maria walked quickly down the hallway, glancing over her shoulder as if checking whether anyone was watching. She entered the service stairwell, the one area of the penthouse with limited camera coverage. Marcus switched to the stairwell camera, but the angle only caught her back as she descended. The bag was clearly in her hand. He fast-forwarded. 23 minutes later, Maria returned. Without the bag. Marcus felt ice flood his veins. He immediately began scrubbing through other nights' footage. Week 5, Thursday, 3:15 a.m. Maria leaving Joshua's room with the same small bag, entering the stairwell, returning without it. Week 4, Monday, 2:52 a.m., same pattern. Week 3, Sunday, 3:01 a.m., same pattern. She'd been taking something from Joshua's room, repeatedly. In the middle of the night, when she thought no one was watching, Marcus's hands shook as he made the connection. The bag was the right size for medication bottles, for valuables, for anything she could sell. Just like the others. He'd been a fool. Again. The protocol violations, the emotional bonding, Joshua's improvement. It had all been a setup. A long game to gain his trust while she stole from him. Marcus stood abruptly and walked straight to Victoria's room. She was already asleep, but he knocked urgently. She opened the door in her robe, concerned. "Marcus, what's wrong? You were right. About Maria." His voice was tight with rage and betrayal. "She's been stealing. I have her on camera, multiple nights, taking things from Joshua's room." Victoria's eyes widened. "Oh my God. Marcus, I'm so sorry. I hoped I was wrong. I'm firing her. Tonight. Right now." "Wait." Victoria grabbed his arm. "If you fire her tonight, she'll know you caught her on camera. She might destroy whatever she's stolen. Or worse, she might go to the press with lies about Joshua's condition, about your parenting. You know how they are." Marcus hesitated. "Fire her in the morning," Victoria said gently. "Make it about something else, budget cuts, changing Joshua's care needs, whatever. Get her out cleanly. Then you can investigate what she took and press charges if needed." It made sense. Cold, strategic sense. "Okay," Marcus said finally. "Tomorrow morning." Victoria squeezed his hand sympathetically. "I'm sorry you have to go through this again. But at least you caught her before she could do real damage." Marcus returned to the security room and watched the footage again and again, each viewing confirming what he thought he saw. Maria Santos, like the 11 before her, was a thief and a liar. He'd almost believed in her, almost let himself hope that someone could care about Joshua without an ulterior motive. But hope, he'd learned, was just another word for stupidity. The next morning, Marcus waited until Maria had given Joshua his breakfast and medications. Then he called her into his study. "Maria, please close the door." She did, looking concerned. "Is everything all right, Mr. Holloway? I need to discuss a change in Joshua's care plan." Maria's face showed immediate worry. "Is he getting worse, doctor?" Morrison said, "This isn't about his medical condition." Marcus kept his voice cold. "Professional. I've decided to make changes to the household staff structure. Your position is being eliminated." The words hung in the air like a death sentence. Maria's face went pale. "Eliminated? Sir, I don't understand. It's a business decision. I'm consolidating roles, bringing in a medical team that can provide round-the-clock care. Your services are no longer needed." "But Joshua is improving." Dr. Morrison said so. "His energy is better. He's eating more. He's—" "Temporary fluctuations," Marcus interrupted. "Not related to your care. I need professionals with advanced medical training." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Mr. Holloway, please. If I did something wrong, tell me. I can fix it. This isn't a negotiation. I need you to pack your belongings and leave within the hour. Your final paycheck will be direct deposited. Can I at least say goodbye to Joshua properly? Please." He deserves... No. The word came out harsh. Clean breaks are better. Less confusing for him. Maria stood there, tears streaming down her face, and for a moment Marcus almost wavered. She looked genuinely devastated, genuinely heartbroken. But he'd seen good acting before. Rebecca had cried too when he'd confronted her about selling stories. 1 hour, Miss Santos. Maria wiped her eyes and nodded slowly. She turned toward the door, then stopped. Mr. Holloway, I need to tell you something. About Joshua's medications. Something's not... I don't need your medical opinions. Marcus cut her off. Please just pack your things. But sir, it's important. I've been noticing... Miss Santos. Leave. Now. Maria looked at him one more time, her expression shifting from sadness to something else. Resignation, maybe. Or disappointment. I'll pray for you both, she said quietly. Then she left. Marcus sat alone in his study, telling himself he'd made the right decision. Telling himself the tightness in his chest was just residual stress. Telling himself he hadn't just made the worst mistake of his life. 30 minutes later, Maria emerged from her room carrying her single small bag. Her eyes were red from crying, but her face was composed. Victoria was in the hallway, arms crossed, watching her with barely concealed satisfaction. Maria, before you go, Victoria said sweetly, I just want you to know we're grateful for your service. Joshua will be fine. He doesn't really need you anymore. Maria looked at her for a long moment. You should be very careful, Miss Victoria. God sees everything, even the things you think are hidden. Victoria's smile faltered slightly. Excuse me? I'll pray for you too. Maria walked toward the elevator. As she passed Joshua's room, she could hear him calling out, Dad, where's Maria? I want Maria, Marcus's voice responded, tight and false. She had to go, buddy, but we'll be okay. No, I want Maria. She promised she wouldn't leave. Joshua's voice rose to a scream. She promised. Maria stopped at the elevator, tears streaming down her face, her hand trembling as she pressed the button. The doors opened. She stepped inside, and as the elevator descended, taking her away from the child she'd grown to love as her own, Maria made a decision. She would not let Joshua die because of whatever was happening in that penthouse. She didn't know what yet, but something was wrong with his medications. She'd noticed it over the past week. The pills Victoria brought to Joshua's room didn't look quite right. The colors were slightly off, the shapes not quite matching what Dr. Morrison had prescribed. Maria had tried to tell Marcus just now, but he wouldn't listen, so she would find another way. Because she'd made a promise to her brother Miguel's memory. She would never let another child die if there was something she could do to prevent it, even if it meant risking everything. For 3 days after Maria left, Marcus told himself he'd made the right decision. Joshua stopped speaking. He took his medication silently, ate when forced, stared at walls with empty eyes. The plant Maria had brought began to wither, forgotten. Marcus tried everything. New toys Joshua didn't touch, special meals he didn't eat. He even tried reading the adventure story Maria had started, but Joshua turned his face away, silent tears streaming down his cheeks. Victoria tried to comfort Joshua, but the boy recoiled from her touch. You made her leave, he whispered once. You didn't like her. On day 4, Dr. Morrison came for an emergency evaluation. The results were devastating. His white blood cell count is dropping again, she said, her voice heavy with concern. The tumor markers are rising. Whatever progress we saw 3 weeks ago is reversing rapidly. Marcus sat with his head in his hands. How is that possible in 4 days? Psychosomatic decline. When children lose hope, when they experience profound emotional trauma, their bodies respond. The stress hormones, the depression, it all impacts healing. She paused. What happened? He was doing so well. I fired the caregiver. Dr. Morrison's expression shifted to something between anger and pity. The one who was making him better? I had reasons, good reasons. And now he's dying faster. Are those reasons worth your son's life? The words hit like physical blows. Through the glass door, Marcus could see Joshua lying curled in bed, clutching the pillow Maria used to fluff each morning. I saw her on camera, Marcus said quietly, taking things from Joshua's room in the middle of the night. Multiple times. She was stealing, just like the others. Doctor. Morrison frowned. Did you actually see what she was taking? A bag. She took a bag out of his room and came back without it. And you didn't ask her about it? Just assumed? Marcus said nothing. Because he hadn't asked. He'd just assumed. Based on 11 previous betrayals, he'd assumed Maria was number 12. Mr. Holloway, Dr. Morrison said carefully. I've been a pediatric oncologist for 20 years. I've seen a lot of caregivers, and Maria Santos was one of the best I've ever observed. The way she connected with Joshua, the way she understood his needs, that's not something you can fake. People faked it before, did they? Or were they just inadequate, and you caught them being inadequate? Dr. Morrison gathered her files. I think you should reconsider, because at this rate, Joshua doesn't have 3 months. He might not have 3 weeks. After she left, Marcus sat alone, staring at nothing. That night, he couldn't sleep. At midnight, he went to the security room and pulled up the footage again, the clips of Maria leaving Joshua's room with the bag. He watched more carefully this time, zooming in, analyzing. The bag was small, canvas, dark-colored. He'd seen it before somewhere. Marcus scrubbed through earlier footage from Maria's first week. Day 2. Maria arriving for work, carrying that same bag. She'd taken it directly to the service stairwell. His heart began to race. He switched to the stairwell camera. The angle was bad, but he could see Maria placing the bag in the corner, behind a large potted plant they kept on the landing. She was hiding it there. Not stealing things from Joshua's room, she was taking things to that stairwell, hiding them there. But why? Marcus stood up so quickly his chair rolled backward. He walked straight to the service stairwell and down to the landing. The potted plant was there. He moved it aside. Behind it was Maria's canvas bag. With trembling hands, Marcus opened it. Inside were medication bottles, dozens of them, all labeled with Joshua's name, all prescribed by Dr. Morrison, all filled with the correct medications. But all of them were full, unopened. The medications Joshua should have been taking for the past month. Marcus felt the room tilt. He grabbed the railing to steady himself. If these medications were here, hidden and unused, then what had Joshua been taking? The answer hit him like a freight train. Victoria. Victoria had been handling Joshua's medication administration whenever Maria was busy with other tasks. Victoria had been the one bringing the pills on a tray, cheerfully helping out. Marcus ran back to the security room, his hands shaking so badly he could barely operate the keyboard. He pulled up footage from yesterday morning. Victoria entering Joshua's room with the medication tray. He zoomed in as close as the camera would allow. The pills on the tray didn't match the ones in the stairwell. The colors were different. The shapes were different. Marcus scrolled back through days of footage, week after week of Victoria bringing medications, and when he looked carefully, so carefully he could barely breathe, he could see it. Week 4. Victoria entering the medication storage area, taking out bottles, replacing them with different bottles from her purse. Week 3. Victoria dumping pills down the bathroom sink when she thought no one was watching. Week 2. Victoria at a pharmacy, paying cash for bottles of vitamins and supplements. She'd been replacing Joshua's cancer medications with placebos, systematically, carefully, for weeks. And Maria had figured it out. That's why Maria had been collecting the real medications. That's why she'd tried to tell him this morning before he fired her. Something's not right with Joshua's medications. But he hadn't listened. Maria had been trying to save his son's life, and he'd thrown her out like garbage. Marcus's phone fell from his hands. His legs gave out and he collapsed into the chair, his entire body shaking. Victoria had been killing Joshua, slowly, deliberately, making it look like natural disease progression. And Maria, sweet, faithful Maria, had discovered it and been trying to protect Joshua by hiding the real medications where Victoria couldn't find them. That's why Joshua had been improving, because for the first few weeks, the real medications were still in his system. But once Victoria's replacements took full effect, he'd started declining. And when Maria left, taking her protection with her, Joshua was fully at Victoria's mercy. Marcus stood on unsteady legs and walked straight to Victoria's room. She opened the door in her silk nightgown, smiling. "Marcus, is everything?" He held up one of the medication bottles. "What is this?" Her face went carefully blank. "I don't know. Where did you find it?" "In the stairwell. Where Maria hid them." The real medications Joshua should have been taking, while you were giving him fake ones. Victoria's smile faltered. That's insane. Why would I? I saw the footage, all of it. You've been poisoning my son. For a long moment, Victoria said nothing. Then something in her face changed. The mask slipped. Poisoning is such an ugly word, she said coldly. I was simply accelerating the inevitable. Marcus felt rage so pure it was almost blinding. He's a child. He's my child. He was a burden, Victoria said simply. A dying burden who was costing you time, money, emotional energy. Once he was gone, we could have had a real life together. Travel, freedom. You would have gotten over it eventually. Gotten over losing my son. You'd already lost him. I just helped move the timeline along. She shrugged. And I would have succeeded if that maid hadn't started snooping. Marcus's hands clenched into fists. Maria wasn't snooping. She was saving him. Well, she's gone now. And without her interfering, Joshua will decline naturally in another week or two. You'll be devastated. You'll turn to me. And we'll move forward. Victoria smiled. It's actually perfect. Marcus pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police. No, you're not. Victoria's voice turned hard. Because if you do, I'll go to every media outlet and tell them you knew, that you helped, that you wanted your sick son dead. I have emails, Marcus. I've been collecting documentation that makes it look like this was your idea. That's a lie. Is it? Can you prove it? Can you risk the investigation, the trial, the media circus? Can you put Joshua through that in his final weeks? Marcus stared at this woman he'd almost married, this monster he'd brought into his home, and realized she was right. Fighting her in court could take months. Joshua didn't have months. But Joshua also didn't have weeks if Victoria remained in the house. Get out, Marcus said quietly. Pack your things and get out. Now. If you're not gone in 1 hour, I'm calling the police anyway and dealing with whatever comes. Victoria's eyes flashed with anger. But she saw something in Marcus's face that made her back down. Fine. But you're making a mistake. That maid doesn't care about Joshua. She was probably planning to sell her story about the billionaire's dying son for 6 figures. Get out. Victoria grabbed a few items and left within 30 minutes, her face a mask of cold fury. The moment she was gone, Marcus collapsed against the wall, his entire body shaking. He'd almost lost everything, his son, his soul, his humanity, because he'd chosen to believe a monster over an angel. Now he had to find that angel and pray she would forgive him, pray she would come back and finish saving Joshua's life. At 6 a.m., Marcus drove to Queens with the bag of real medications beside him. He climbed the stairs to Maria's apartment building, exhaustion and desperation making each step feel like climbing a mountain. He knocked on apartment 3C. Maria's mother answered, chain on the door. Her eyes turned ice cold when she saw him. You have a lot of nerve coming here. Mrs. Santos, please. I need to speak with Maria. It's about Joshua. He's dying? Yes, my daughter told me. She also told me you threw her away like garbage. I made a terrible mistake. I thought she was stealing, but she wasn't. She was protecting Joshua. Victoria was the one. His voice broke. Please, I need to apologize. I need to beg her to come back. Maria's mother studied his face for a long moment. She's not here. Marcus felt his heart drop. Where is she? She went back. Back where? To your building. Mrs. Santos's expression softened slightly. Last night, she said she couldn't let that boy die, even if you'd fired her. She was going to sneak in somehow and give him his real medicine. Marcus's blood ran cold. She went to my penthouse last night? Around midnight. She hasn't come back yet. Marcus was already running down the stairs. If Maria had gone to the penthouse last night and Victoria had still been there. If Victoria had caught her. Marcus drove 90 miles an hour back to Manhattan, praying he wasn't too late. Marcus burst into his penthouse at 6:30 a.m. The place was silent. He ran to Joshua's room. His son was sleeping, but peacefully. His color looked slightly better than yesterday. Marcus checked the medication log. Someone had administered Joshua's morning doses 3 hours ago. The right doses, the real medications. Maria, she'd been here. Marcus began searching the penthouse, calling her name. Maria, Maria, where are you? No response. He checked the security footage from midnight to now, his hands shaking as he scrolled through the timeline. 12:47 a.m. Maria entering through the service entrance. She must have still had her key card. 12:53 a.m. Maria retrieving the bag of real medications from the stairwell. 1:02 a.m. Maria entering Joshua's room, spending 20 minutes inside. 1:24 a.m. Maria leaving Joshua's room, and the next clip made Marcus's heart stop. Victoria, who hadn't left yet, confronting Maria in the hallway. Marcus couldn't hear the audio, but he could see them arguing. Victoria grabbing for the medication bag, Maria pulling away. Victoria shoving Maria backward, Maria stumbling, hitting the wall. Then the footage showed something that made Marcus's blood run cold. Victoria pulling out her phone, speaking into it, making a call. 20 minutes later, security arriving. Not Marcus's regular security team, they knew Maria. This was different security. Building security, Victoria must have called, the guards escorting Maria out in handcuffs. Victoria speaking to them, pointing at Maria, her face showing fake distress. The footage showed Maria trying to explain something, but the guards weren't listening. Marcus immediately called building security. "This is Marcus Holloway, penthouse 53. You arrested someone from my residence early this morning. Where is she?" Miss Victoria Cross reported a break-in around 1:30 a.m., sir. We detained the intruder and called police. She was arrested for criminal trespass. That wasn't an intruder. That was my son's caregiver. She had authorized access. Miss Cross said she'd been fired and her access revoked, sir. She said the woman had broken in to steal medication. Marcus felt sick. Which precinct? Midtown South. Marcus hung up and grabbed his keys. Maria had risked her freedom to save Joshua's life. She'd broken into the building, knowing she could be arrested, just to give his son the real medication he needed. While Marcus had been sleeping peacefully, Maria had been sitting in a jail cell all night for trying to save the child he'd failed to protect, and he'd never hated himself more. Marcus arrived at Midtown South Precinct at 7 a.m. and immediately posted Maria's bail. It took 3 hours of paperwork, of lawyers, of explaining the situation to skeptical officers. Finally, at 10 a.m., Maria was released. She emerged from the holding area looking exhausted, her clothes wrinkled, her eyes red from crying. When she saw Marcus, she stopped walking. "I'm sorry," Marcus said immediately, his voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. For everything. For not listening. For not trusting you. Is Joshua okay?" Maria interrupted. "Did he get the medication?" "Yes, because of you. You saved him." Maria's shoulders sagged with relief. "Thank God." "Maria, I know what Victoria was doing. I found the footage. I found the real medications you were hiding. I know you were trying to tell me and I wouldn't listen." Tears streamed down his face. "I know you broke into the building last night, risking arrest, just to give Joshua his medicine. You could have walked away. You could have let him die and said, 'I told you so,' but you didn't." Maria wiped her own tears. "He's just a child. He didn't deserve to die because adults failed him. I failed him. I failed you. I chose fear and suspicion over the one person who actually loved my son." Marcus stepped closer. "Victoria's gone. The police are looking for her now for attempted murder. Joshua has his real medications. Dr. Morrison is on her way to restart his treatment properly. But he needs you, Maria. Not just as a caregiver. He needs you because he loves you. And his voice broke completely, I need you because I finally understand what my wife understood before she died. That love matters more than control. That trust is worth the risk. That you can't protect people by pushing everyone away." Maria looked at him for a long moment. "Mr. Holloway, Marcus, please." "Marcus," she continued, "I need you to understand something. I didn't come back for you. I came back for Joshua. Because I made a promise to my brother's memory that I would never let a child die if I could prevent it. I know. And I can't work in a house where I'm not trusted. Where every action is documented and suspected. Where love is treated like a threat." Her voice was firm but not angry. "Joshua deserves better than that. He deserves a father who's present, who trusts the people caring for his son, who chooses hope over fear. You're right about all of it." Marcus took a deep breath. "I'm not asking you to come back as an employee. I'm asking you to come back as family. because that's what you are. That's what you've been since the day you started praying over my son when you thought no one was listening. Maria's eyes filled with fresh tears. I can't just walk back in like nothing happened. I know, so let me prove it to you. Let me show you I've changed. Let me earn your trust the way I should have from the beginning. He pulled out an envelope. This is a contract my lawyer drew up this morning. You're listed as Joshua's legal guardian if anything happens to me. You have final say on all medical decisions. Your family, Maria, in every way that matters. The paperwork just makes it official. Maria took the envelope with shaking hands but didn't open it. Why? Because last night, while I was sleeping, you were sitting in a jail cell for trying to save my son. Because you've shown more love for Joshua in 6 weeks than I've shown in 8 years. Because you're the mother he needs, and I've been too blind to see it. Maria wiped her eyes. If I come back, and I'm not saying I will, there have to be changes. Anything. No more surveillance of me. You can keep cameras for security, but you don't review footage of me unless there's an actual emergency. Done. You work from home at least 3 days a week, actually present, actually parenting, already planned, and you trust me. When I tell you something about Joshua's health or well-being, you listen. You don't doubt first and verify later. You just listen. I promise. Maria looked down at the envelope in her hands. I need to think about it. Take all the time you need. But Maria, Joshua is asking for you. Every 10 minutes, he asks when you're coming home. Not if, when, because he believes you'll come back. He has more faith than I deserve. Maria's resolve wavered. Can I see him? Just to know he's okay. He's your son in every way that matters. You don't need my permission. They drove back to the penthouse in silence. When they entered, Rosa met them at the elevator, her face lighting up. Miss Maria, thank God. Joshua's voice echoed from his room. Maria? Is that Maria? Maria walked quickly to his bedroom and opened the door. Joshua sat up in bed, his face transforming when he saw her. Maria, you came back. She crossed the room and pulled him into her arms, both of them crying. I told you, sweetheart. I keep my promises. I thought you left forever. Dad said you had to go, and then you didn't come back. And I thought. His words tumbled over each other, muffled against her shoulder. I'm sorry, baby. I'm so sorry. But I'm here now. Promise you won't leave again? Maria pulled back and looked at him seriously. Joshua, I need to talk with your dad about some grown-up things first. But I promise you this. I will never abandon you. Even if I'm not living here, I will always be in your life. Always. Okay? It wasn't the answer he wanted, but he nodded, trusting her. Marcus stood in the doorway, watching them, and felt something crack open in his chest. This was what family looked like. Not control or surveillance or protocols, just love. Simple, genuine, sacrificial love. Maria, he said quietly, there's something I need to show you. He led her to his study, where he'd set up a laptop with security footage queued. This is from 3 nights ago, he said. Watch. The footage showed Victoria in the kitchen. Late at night, thinking she was alone, she was grinding pills with a mortar and pestle, dumping the powder down the drain, replacing them in the bottles with different pills, and she was talking to herself. The audio was faint, but Marcus had enhanced it. Just a few more weeks, Victoria muttered. Then the kid dies, Marcus falls apart, and I get everything. The penthouse, the money, the life I deserve. No more pretending to care about that dying brat. Maria's hand covered her mouth. Oh my God, there's more. Marcus skipped forward. This is from yesterday morning, before I fired you. The footage showed Victoria in the medication storage area. But this time, she wasn't alone. She was on a video call. The person on the other end was visible, an older woman who looked strikingly like Victoria. Is the job almost done? The woman asked. Almost, Mother, Victoria replied. The kid's declining right on schedule. Another 2 weeks, maybe 3. And you're sure the maid doesn't suspect? The maid's getting too nosy, actually. I need Marcus to fire her. I planted some evidence footage of her stealing from the kid's room. Marcus will see it tonight. Smart girl. Once she's gone and the boy dies, you'll have full control. Exactly. Then I cash in. Grieving billionaire widower is worth more than engaged billionaire. The longer I wait, the bigger the payout. Maria's face had gone pale. She planned all of this. Yes, and I fell for it completely. Marcus's voice was heavy with shame. I saw exactly what she wanted me to see. I believed exactly what she wanted me to believe. And I punished you for trying to save my son. Maria was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Where is Victoria now?" "Gone. I threw her out last night after I discovered what she'd done. The police are looking for her. They have all this footage. She'll be arrested for attempted murder." "Good." Maria's voice was firm. "That woman is evil." "She almost won," Marcus said quietly. "If you hadn't figured out what she was doing with the medications. If you hadn't been brave enough to come back last night despite being fired. Joshua would be dead in 2 weeks, and I never would have known she murdered him." Maria looked at him. "But I did come back, and Joshua is alive. And now you know the truth. Because of you. Everything good in the past 6 weeks has been because of you." Marcus met her eyes. "I know I don't deserve your forgiveness. I know I don't deserve your trust. But Joshua deserves you in his life. Please, Maria, come back. Not as an employee, as family." Maria looked down at her hands. "I need to tell you something. About why I became a caregiver. Okay, my brother Miguel died when he was 7. Leukemia. We couldn't afford treatment. I watched him die slowly, knowing there were medications that could save him, but they were too expensive." Her voice shook. "I promised myself that if I ever had the chance to save a sick child, I would do it, no matter what. Even if it cost me everything. Maria, when I took this job, I thought it was just about money, about paying for my nursing degree. But the moment I met Joshua," she wiped her tears. "He looked so much like Miguel. Same big eyes. Same brave face hiding so much fear. And I knew God had brought me here for a reason. To save him. To love him. Saving him is just what you do when you love someone." Maria looked up. "So yes, I'll come back. Not for you. For Joshua. Because he's my second chance to keep the promise I made to Miguel." Marcus felt tears stream down his face. "Thank you. Thank you so much. But Marcus, you have to be his father. Really be his father. Show up. Be present. Love him the way your wife would have wanted." "I will. I promise I will." CTA-3. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you loved this story, check out the other videos on your screen now. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story. 3 months later, the penthouse looked completely different. Not physically same luxury space, but the atmosphere had transformed entirely. Joshua's room had been repainted at his request, warm blue with clouds that Maria helped him design. His drawings covered one wall, portraits of 4 people. Mum in heaven, Dad, Maria, and himself. Dr. Morrison's most recent report sat on Marcus's desk. Status, remission. Tumor markers, undetectable. Prognosis, excellent. Remission. Joshua was thriving. He'd returned to school part-time. His color was healthy, his energy nearly normal for a child his age. And Marcus had kept every promise. He worked from home 3 days a week. Every morning, breakfast together. Every evening, dinner together. Every weekend, parks, museums, movies, ordinary things that felt extraordinary. Maria had moved into the guest suite permanently, no longer staff quarters but family space. The surveillance cameras in private areas had been removed. Marcus had learned to trust instead of monitor. One Saturday afternoon, they visited Central Park, Marcus, Joshua, and Maria. Joshua could walk now, though he tired easily. They found a quiet spot near Bethesda Fountain. "Dad," Joshua said suddenly, "can I ask something?" "Anything, buddy. Is Maria going to stay forever?" Marcus glanced at Maria. "That's Maria's choice. But I hope so. I can't imagine our family without her." "Me neither." Joshua looked at Maria seriously. "Will you stay? Forever?" Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Where else would I go, sweetheart? You're stuck with me now." "Good," Joshua smiled. "Because you're not just my nurse. You're my, I don't know the word." "Guardian angel?" Maria suggested. "No, that's what Mom is." He thought hard. "You're my mummy number 2. The phrase made both adults cry. "Mummy number 2. Maria repeated softly. "I like that." "Sarah would have loved you," Marcus said, voice thick. She would have been grateful someone like you came into Joshua's life when I was too broken to be enough. As if on cue, a monarch butterfly landed on the bench between them, orange and black wings brilliant in afternoon sun. Joshua gasped. A butterfly, like the ones Mum loved. The butterfly sat perfectly still, wings opening and closing. Mum's watching, Joshua whispered. She sent the butterfly to say hi. Maria reached out slowly, and impossibly, the butterfly climbed onto her finger. Maybe she's saying thank you, Marcus said quietly, for taking care of her son. Or maybe, Maria said softly, she's saying welcome to the family. The butterfly stayed for a long moment, then lifted gracefully, spiraling up into blue sky. Joshua leaned against Maria. She wrapped her arm around him. Marcus put his arm around both. They sat like that for a long time, a family rebuilt from grief, held together by love that transcended biology and employment. A family that had almost been destroyed by fear and suspicion, but was saved by one woman's courage to risk everything for a child who wasn't hers by blood, but was hers by love. And in the end, that was the only thing that mattered.